So this live video is in preparation for tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be homeschooling my middle son, Marlon. I spoke to the teachers today and it was suggested that it would be good if for the rest of the year, I know it's only a short while to go, but I'll teach him for 1 day a week. So what happened today, and I'll give you an example of psychological projection. You've heard me talk about it before. This is really key for you to understand, because when you understand psychology, you understand yourself. And there's a major failure for us human beings today to understand ourselves. Why do you see a psychologist? Well, to understand what's going on with you and the situation around you, because you can't make sense of it yourself. That in itself, just identifying and acknowledging, should be a concern. When we have to pay people to understand ourselves and situations around us, surely that should give us some kind of sense of almost urgency to, as young as primary school, start to implement and teach self-awareness through psychology. So a great example of projection, and one that most people will know, would be, what do? You see a guy driving a convertible Porsche. Oh, mate, was that me? Yeah, it was me. But you see some young guy driving a Porsche. And what's your first thought? Rich, C-U-N-T. Or, it's some insult to the person who is perceived to have more than you. And why that's happening is because you see someone with a Porsche, you don't have one, you feel a sense of I'm not good enough, and that doesn't feel good. So what do? Project that feeling onto that guy who's worked really hard through adversity, who's educated himself, who's done everything himself. And this is the case in every person who drives a nice car. Psychological projection is something that I really like to see talking about rules. It's a range amongst psychologists. But as an adult watching this video, learn to try and identify what you're projecting. So the example I you say someone who's perceived ability, it happens with me, if you would find anyone who has been really checked before, very, very uncomfortable to take your top off, because unlike this one kind of body shape that kind of just blends into everything, no one really notices. But, if I take my top off and walk down the street in summer, it's, this idiot, get off the roads, mate. Or something kind of like that, it's more projection. It's more feeling inadequate, inferior, not as good as, and therefore having to then project that feeling onto them by bagging them out, And this is kind of really common. But what happened today and why I'm taking Marlon, 1 day a week is because the teachers aren't trained to know what's going on. They don't do psychology. It's not a big part of what they do in order to when they do their training. So what happened was, when Marlon started school, he didn't really make friends that easily. In fact, he began to take a soft toy to school as comfort. So these are all things that you can pick up on, and children who walk around with their little blankies and little things like that. They're insecure, they're anxious, and this is how far you can. This is how early signs of anxiety, lack of confidence. These are all things that we can start to understand from a very, very early age. What's fascinating to me is that we actually know more about our dogs than we do our children. You know, we know that a Labrador is a Labrador, you know, and they can, you know, be trained for seeing eye dogs. And we know that, you know, if they react, you know, to a loud noise, they're off the team. If the hair swirls in a particular way, they're off the team. So really, for a guide dog to be a guide dog, two tests. One, it can't react to a loud noise. And two, its hair swirls in a particular way. But we know more about the species of dogs than we do the species of humans. We know that if you get a Kelpie and put it around sheep, it'll naturally just run and round them up. We know that if you have a French Mastiff, like our big dog, which was the head of the big dog diner, very, very protective. The first time I took the dog to the dog park to socialise it didn't want to socialise. It wanted to sit by the family. And if any dog came near us, it'd just, you know, react and bark, because that's its nature. That's what it does. It was designed and bred to protect a flock of sheep in France. So, you know, it's kind of interesting when you use that context between, you know, what do we know about human beings? How can you tell the difference between one and another? We can with animals, we can with dogs. We know that that'll do that and that'll do that. And Great Danes are big dogs and they like to be indoors. And you know, so it's kind of fascinating that we know more about dogs than we do our own species. So psychological projection, getting back on the topic of this video and what I'll be doing tomorrow, is helping Marlon understand himself there was an incident at school today where he was being quite mean and hurtful to the preppies coming into grade 1. And for those of us who know Marlon, we know that he had a very, very hard time making friends and still does. And, you know, he told me that he was sitting on the friendship seat and, you know, no one came. And, you know, these are really traumatic things for a child. And it's so unfortunate that so much of the time that because of our lack of understanding, in the simple fact that hurt people hurt people. So it's quite often that it's, especially in a school environment, when it's so inconvenient when someone's doing the wrong thing or not kind of towing the line, so to speak, that it's just so quick to kind of just, you know, hey, stop it, you know, sit over there, punish them, compound the pain, compound the hurt through lack of our own understanding. And actually the understanding that, hey, this poor little dude, he had a really hard time at home. All he's doing is projecting. He's projecting his feelings of insecurity, his feelings of hurt when he was going through the same stage of school onto these other little kids. So psychological projection is fundamental for primary schools to start acknowledging, you know, in their teaching and in the curriculum. Psychological projection is so important for you as an adult or a young teenager, you know, to understand, you know, when you're insulting someone else for just being them, you know, or having a nicer car or, you know, whatever it might be, you know, understand that when you kind of just are so quick to insult, you know, you're actually projecting your own feelings of inadequacy, your own feelings of, you know, not feeling not good enough, hurt and pain. So if we don't understand, you know, why hurt people, we're going to be just making people worse instead of making them better. And certainly for primary school and early education, it's our responsibility to enable kids to, you know, understand their own behaviour so they can then identify and self-regulate and kind of better understand themselves. So we can better understand ourselves, just like we understand the types of dogs that are out there, the breeds of dogs. We know what to expect from them. You know, we know more about dogs than we do our own selves. And this I'd like to see changed. So, live.